Not every second earthquake is an aftershock. That is the mistake many people make after strong shaking. A second quake may be an aftershock. It may be a foreshock that only becomes clear later. Or it may be part of a twin-quake sequence, where two significant earthquakes happen close together. The difference is not simply which quake came first. It depends on size, location, timing, fault relationship, and how the ruptures connect. When strong shaking happens, people often ask one question: was that the main earthquake? But the Earth does not always answer immediately. The largest event in a sequence may come first, or it may come later. That is why earthquake sequences can be confusing in real time. An aftershock is a related earthquake that follows the main shock as the surrounding crust adjusts. After a fault ruptures, stress changes around the broken section. Nearby areas may keep shifting. That adjustment can produce more earthquakes. Those are aftershocks. They are often smaller than the main shock, but they can still be dangerous. A weakened building can fail later. A cracked wall can collapse later. A damaged slope can move later. A road, bridge, or structure that survived the first shaking may not be safe during the next one. That is the familiar pattern. One larger earthquake, then smaller related earthquakes after it. But not every sequence follows that pattern. Sometimes the stronger quake comes second. When scientists look back, the earlier quake may be called a foreshock. The stronger quake becomes the main shock. But people cannot know that with certainty while the sequence is still unfolding. A quake is only called a foreshock after a larger event follows. Before that, it is simply an earthquake. A twin-quake, or earthquake doublet, is different again. It means two significant earthquakes happen close together in time and location. Both events matter. The second one is not just a small leftover shake. It may be strong enough to stand beside the first quake as part of the main sequence. That is why a twin-quake sequence can feel very different from a normal mainshock aftershock pattern. The first earthquake may damage structures. The second may arrive before people, buildings, and emergency systems have recovered. But two quakes close together are not automatically a doublet. Scientists still ask, how strong were both earthquakes? How close were they in time? How close were they in location? Did they happen on the same fault system or nearby connected structures? Did the first rupture change stress near the second? This is where stress transfer matters. When one earthquake ruptures, it can change the stress field around it. Some areas may be relieved. Other areas may be pushed closer to failure. If a nearby section was already close to breaking, that added stress may help it move. But stress transfer is not a countdown. It does not mean every strong earthquake will trigger another strong one. Most earthquake sequences fade into smaller aftershocks. Only some produce a second strong event that changes how scientists understand the sequence. So the simple difference is this: an aftershock is a related quake that follows the main shock as the crust adjusts. A foreshock is only recognized later, after a larger quake follows. A twin quake, or doublet, means two significant quakes happen close enough in time and location that both are central to the sequence. For people on the ground, the practical lesson is simple. After strong shaking, do not assume the sequence is finished. Move away from damaged walls, unstable buildings, cracked slopes, broken glass, weakened roads, and unsafe coastal or urban areas where officials tell people to move. Check trusted updates. Expect more shaking. Stay calm, but stay alert. Because the second earthquake is not defined only by coming second. What matters is how large it is, where it happens, and how it connects to the first rupture. Understanding the difference does not tell us when the next earthquake will happen, but it helps us understand Why one earthquake is not always the whole event. Share this with someone who thinks every second quake is automatically an aftershock. Subscribe to Nature Forces for calm, science-based earthquake explanations. Science, not panic. Preparedness, not fear.